Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to episode 92 of The Next Block. And today we'll be speaking with Staci Warden, CEO of Algorand Foundation, and we'll be talking about the future of blockchain and adoption in 2024. Crypto for Change, how's it going?
It's going good. At first, I saw you had the video on. I thought it was my audio. I was like, oh my gosh, no. My son, it's finally come that he's big enough. He pushed over my computer tower, and so I've had some audio issues, and so I'm using my backup, actually just gaming mic. But these kids these days, man. And then I got my dog over there. At least she's asleep. He's asleep. I'm good as long as they stay asleep and we can get this episode fully done. But outside of that, excited. Fun at first, also just on a update of my life. First sunny day, warm day in a while. So me and my son got out to the beach today, got to enjoy
Mm,
some touching ground because we all need that right now with how the markets have been behaving and fluctuating up and down, left and right. So excited, ready to get this show on the road. Shout out to everyone in the chat. I can already tell it's popping. I see
yes,
Fred.
yes.
I see Everyday Algonaut. You hear a lot. I see CJ the Great. I see Norbert. I see Barb. What's up, Barb? And to
Hey,
all the
what's up,
Barb
Barb?
community. Michael Jordan, I see you out there. Kevin, thank you so much, guys, for joining. Obviously, we do this for you, and that's why we are one of the best and one of the biggest community-led channels on Algorand. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and let's bring Stacy on. Let's get this show on the road.
Yes. Well, everyone, welcome Staci Warden to the show.
Hey
Hey,
guys.
Stacey.
Oh, am I frozen? No, I'm good. Hey.
Yeah.
Is there a chance to have a puppy showing, or have you finally gotten this dog to sleep?
She's napping, so I'm gonna let her energy just stay there, and just so she doesn't start barking and going wild. But maybe
Right.
at the end, I'll try to bring her in.
All right.
I'll wake her up.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
that'll be a nice a treat right there for everyone.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get this show on the road. So, let's start off in talking about the roadmap that the Algorand Foundation just released. So, we got a big overview. We got dynamic lambda, algo kit, non-archival relays, consensus, incentivization, and peer-to-peer gossips. Right. So, Stacey, can you speak
You
on
know
this
it
a little
all.
bit?
You
Yeah,
know it
we
all.
We gotta know it
So
right
all.
much
here.
going on. So much going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we are pretty fired up for 2024, as you can imagine, and it starts on the tech side. And so when I say we, of course, in particular this, it is both stuff going on in Algorand Technologies on the protocol side and stuff going on in John's shop at the foundation. So I'll make sure to say which is which. But the dynamic lambda has already been released. And this, as you have seen already, and you can see it on chain, reduces the time that a block is propagated, right? So we've always had instant, final settlement as soon as you make your transaction, right? So there's a distinction between the settlement time and the time that you sort of see the results of your transaction. But that second time, that block time is now, under 3 seconds. And that's because we've made the block times and the block sizes dynamic. So they fluctuate based on kind of network congestion, basically, is the way to think about it. And so how it happens sort of technically is that the fastest consensus nodes, we used to call them participation nodes. And as we move from, a hub and spoke framework to a peer-to-peer framework, we are not calling them, we won't have relay nodes and participation nodes anymore. We'll just have consensus nodes, right? So these consensus nodes, the fastest 95 to get there, we'll get there and be able to validate that block, and then the block will be done. And that, however fast that happens, is how fast the block will get done. So it's a very kind of clever idea, and it has this additional benefit of making the average block time actually faster. And that's been rolled out recently, but that was like the first thing we came out of the gate with this year. And then we've got a bunch more. You listed them all, going into Q2, Q3, and then Q3, Q4. And so I'll go kind of broadly in chronological order.
Okay.
So Algo Kit, which you have been hearing about a lot, but it's been in developer beta for the last couple of months, and it is going to be released in February. And so this is a fully Python developer environment, and it means that I don't know. I mean, it's probably nothing, but the 10 million people in the world that know Python can just now program on Algorand without having to learn anything new. There have been attempts at this before on other blockchains. There have been sort of Python elements to libraries. There have been Viper, which is a kind of like we had a version of that, which was a PyTeal. So it's a little bit of a Python overlay to Teal. But, you know, with snakes and with coding, like if you run into a Viper and, you know, and you try to tell people you ran into a Python, people are going to be like, that wasn't a Python, that was a Viper. Like, come on, like, you know. And so this is really Python. It's like actual Python. And so, you know, it's the most popular programming language in the world, and we're pretty excited about that. Now, this needs to be constantly kind of upgraded and tweaked, and so we're going to continue working on that throughout the year. But the non-beta version we will release in February, and I think and I'm not going to pretend that I understand or I'm, you know, fully up to date on everything that this delivers, but one theme of it is also visualization tools. So like your debugger, it's going to be easier for you to visualize your mistakes, and you're not going to have to, like, you know, line by line debugging is going to be possible for you. So it's just about making the developer experience as beautiful as possible, because we are about excuse elimination over here at the Algorand Foundation. I think we came upon this sort of theme last year, which is that we have the best tech in crypto. And so our job at the foundation is to just systematically eliminate any excuse for using it. So the kind of difficult and not fun, you know, developer environment was one of the first things. So we had to, like, you know, focus on making that. You know, that's what John and his team is really, and Alessandro in particular, have been working pretty hard on all year long. So next up is consensus incentivization, right? So this is the biggie. And I think you know what this means. It means that we are going to start paying for people that are entities that are propagating blocks to the network, right? So I can say more about that now, or you might have some follow-up questions about sort of Silvio's engagement in that. And so we can talk about that later if you want. The next thing is this idea of non-archival relays. And this is just like database optimization. So we had as a tradition, as an architecture, that all of the relay nodes held a full copy of the chain. And that turns out not to be necessary. So now we're going to have relays that are also non-archival, that aren't, they keep a copy of the chain, but let's say it goes back, I don't know, 6 months or something like that. So not every relay needs to hold the entire history of the chain. Some will. And this is going to save a lot of network costs and also improve the efficiency of the network, of course, as well. And then last but not least, you know, I think where we have in the past been accused of being not as decentralized as we claim, it has very much been about the fact that we have relay nodes. And I have always thought of them as kind of a hub and spoke model, that the participation nodes need, you know, they send messages to the relay nodes and the relay nodes propagate them out. Actually, it's really a circle model. So the relay nodes kind of sit around a ring in the perimeter, and all of the participation nodes are inside. But anyway, these relay nodes like make things fast. But, you know, if you're going to have a relay node, the foundation has an interest in making sure that that relay node is meeting technical specifications, right? So you can run a relay node if you want, but we also whitelist relay nodes at the foundation. And that is very important for the quality of the network, but it is also not purely decentralized, right? And so we are moving now to the peer-to-peer. So it, again, as I said earlier, it will be consensus nodes that talk to each other in a kind of like a gossip peer-to-peer network. In the beginning, you will be able to choose between the two, kind of the relay node or the peer-to-peer node way. And, you know, one may be faster, one may be cheaper. You know, we have to kind of figure out the details around that. But this, you know, choice is good. We have the paper is out, and John did a very nice job also of putting like a little video with the paper. So my recommendation to you is to read it on your own, and then go back and read it with him as he's explaining piece by piece to you, and then go back and read it on your own again. So that's what I did, and I think that all 3 rounds of that really helped me get a lot out of it. So
Yeah, and it's also good too because John and Alessandro, I think, and some of the other people are actually going to be on a call soon, going over this roadmap. Probably in a lot more detail with what a lot of this is going to mean for the developer experience and things like that. One of the things that I definitely am excited about is the incentivization. The one thing that just me in the past year, kind of experimenting with other chains, testing them out, looking around to see what's working, what's not on various chains, is the ability that people who are supporting the network are being rewarded. And I know that was a key issue. That was something I remember when I went to the first Decipher in Miami and heard Silvio speak. He was very, his idea was that we would build a network that honest people would want to come, and they would want to secure it and want to run these nodes and want to, hold their algo and be in governance and be in consensus because of the kind of the good of the morale of the people, right? But I just feel like, from an early spot, I was like, that's an interesting stance, especially when looking around and seeing that really nobody else is doing this. Every other, most every other popular chain was like, hey, you either have to have, in Ethereum's case, 32 ETH, right, to be a validator. You either have to have maybe a lot of money to run a Bitcoin, a miner for a Bitcoin, and be willing to, take into consideration all that's there. And this was a big change. And one of my question is, where is Silvio in this, right? I feel like this, the Algorand Gambit, right? One, shout out to whoever came up with that name and the kind of the plays behind it. I think that's really cool. So I don't know if you want to say who did come up with that.
Marketing, right? Like it's our, of course, I'm half Greek and we play backgammon. We call it tavli. So I was like, how about tavli? How about gammon? Because I am unbeatable in backgammon. I will tell you that. And I think John wanted something like space related.
Yeah,
but
like John.
Right. So, but the Queen's Gambit and the chess was really I think everybody kind of talked about it, and this is what they came up with, and it's like super clever and fun and
so just like El Crypto even said, kind of the point is like, where is Silvio in this? I mean, it seems like he's been kind of silent as far as like radio comms go. And, I know when Sean Ford initially left and there was that, kind of that rearranging within the structure there at the Inc. side, we started to see more videos of Silvio, even just short clips on social media of him explaining Algorand. And I feel like there's been a lot of, voice from the community saying like, is he, kind of just not okay with some of the things that are going on and he doesn't really want to speak about them? Is he okay? Is he all on board with the changes? Because this is, in my opinion, this is a huge change from what his initial maybe philosophy or thought was when it came to how Algorand was going to work. What is, what can you, I guess, inform us on there?
Yeah, well, first of all, that's true. It is a big change. But second of all, and this is important to say, like, changes to that protocol do not happen if Silvio is not on board, like by definition. Okay. Like, I mean, he, we do a lot of things at the foundation that he doesn't even know about. They do a lot of things that we don't know about. We don't actually even talk to each other that much, but like, you don't move from a good citizenship model, which is how he construed it, to a paid model without him being on board. That's 2 steps actually. And the first step was quite long, and that was getting him used to and comfortable with the idea. Because he does, and this is deeply of credit to him, he does believe in a good citizenship model. His vision, I think, of how crypto ought to work in a decentralized is that the privilege for transacting and participating on a network as good as this network is to participate in the upholding and the security in particular of that network. Those 2 things go together in a pure, way of looking at the world. And I will say also that, is part of what attracted me to this protocol in the beginning as well. But as you kind of slightly more politely put it, reality bites, right? Like,
I mean, you have to look at what's happening in the space. I was in a group chat that was, we were trading Solana meme coins, SHIT coins, however you want to put it. And it was funny because someone fat fingered a buy on a meme coin of like a ridiculous amount. It was like $6 million. The cryptocurrency was WIF, as the little dog WIF hat, right? As funny as it was cool. But the thing that caught my attention was not so much that, oh my, wow, this guy just spent way too much money and got, wrecked on a meme coin, but it's the thought that the validator of that block, right? The proposer of that block on Solana, he went to sleep maybe that day, or maybe he was just away from his computer, and he came back to a lot of money made off of being a part of that consensus and a part of that.
Right.
And it's just like that, the ability of that, and even, Ethereum with the validators and then being able to earn and pool those fees and distribute those to the citizens of the network. It just, that is one thing that has me excited for 2024 and seeing, how can Algorand leverage this? And I know the fees are we're not as high as an Ethereum or even a Solana right now because of the usage, but with the, with the hope that those will scale as the crypto market does get broader adoption, I believe it's almost a must have because of just wanting to have I feel like the sustainability of the chain, right? I mean, is that kind of your all's thought process as well?
Yeah, totally. And also, we're all, more familiar than we ever thought we would be with the Howey test, right? And so you have to do work. And this is real work. Like this is spending electricity, consuming electricity, spending money. You are doing work as a participant in this endeavor that we call the Algorand blockchain. So that's very important. The second thing that happens, though, when Silvio gets on board is, he is, as you know, one of the world's most famous cryptographers. He's also Sicilian. They were invaded, every couple of hundred years since the beginning of time, right? The Sicilians. And so he is going to spend a lot of time thinking about how could this go wrong? What could possibly go wrong, right? And he can game theorize anything. I mean, anything. And he does not look for the most, the way that people will behave optimally. He looks for, and he's got a nose for this. How can people mess with this? What can they do wrong? How can they game this thing? How can they do bad things to other people? And that process of him, we call it like on the blackboard. And it's not him all by himself. He's, bringing people around, but he's leading. He's the intellectual leader of this, of course. Just making sure that everything that could possibly go wrong is kind of accounted for, and any game playing that could happen, we can kind of solve for. That took some time. But once he, what's the word I want? Once he became comfortable with this, once he persuaded himself that, this was up to his standards, then we get a blessing and we go forward. Now, the next step, of course, is to, circulate this around with the great developers on our ecosystem, right? So John has, conversations all the time, and Gary, have conversations like just making sure that like the really super smart developers around are also like giving their view. And so we're going to take these next couple months and to do that and make sure we do it properly. And, the money will come from fees. Fees will go up, in some way, where we don't want to be too jarring about this, of course. Fees will go up a bit. And then the foundation will also fund this for the next 3 years, and a kind of more in the first year, slightly less in the second year, slightly less in the third year. And so we hope that with the network activity, as you said earlier, we'll get the scale to make this thing work properly. And that means incentivizing people to participate in it properly. So yeah, I think honestly, all this stuff, it's just going to be a game changer for us. Like 2024, it's going to be so incredibly great. And I'll tell you something else. It's not in the Queen's Gambit kind of thing, but is I think also equally important is the stuff that Bruno Martins is doing on standards. So we made, I think, some mistakes early on. We had a team of like the greatest cryptographers, Tal Rabin, Shai Halavi, right? Hugo, these guys are just like, and in fact, they got poached from us by Amazon for $1 gazillion. The whole group of them, poached, to do
by Amazon,
not to do like blockchain on Amazon, but to do core cryptography for Amazon, core cryptography. Like that's how good these guys were. I'm very, very proud of them. And of having them, and for them being part of this blockchain and not another blockchain. but they were also purists, you know? And so if the standard that every other wallet used and every other blockchain used, every other, you know, ecosystem has 24 passwords, and they're like, yeah, but you know, 25 is better than 24. Like we have in a couple of different areas, and I mean like 6 different areas, standards that are better, sure, and that's great, but different than how everybody else uses it. It's a nightmare for integration. It's a nightmare for, and so the other big initiative that we're doing this year is like standardizing things across the ecosystem and also showing leadership on that too. And having Para Wallet now is also really important. We push some of this stuff out through Para, and Bruno, you should have him on your show. You know, you should have Alessandro and Bruno on your show as well to talk about the stuff with Algo Kit. I mean, it's good to have John and me, but you know, there's guys like in here in the day-to-day in the trenches doing this stuff that are I think would be super interesting for your audience to talk to. So that's the other thing that I'm also pretty excited about in the tech roadmap part.
Well, all of that sounds great. And then when you talk about like fees increasing, can you speak a little bit more on that? Like the fees increasing and then they go into the fee rewards pool?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to go to like, I don't know, $2-3 a transaction. I mean, it shouldn't be that. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, we just know that we are now like the fee sync. So we have not touched that since the beginning of time. But that should be marshaled. I mean, you know, like think about the end state for this thing that is ideal. The ideal end state is, and let's call it, you know, 4 years from now, 5 years from now, the fees pay for the consensus work, right? That's the idea, right? And so, of course, that's not, we can't do that now. We don't have the, you know, I mean, crypto for change, you said this a couple of times, you need the scale, you need the throughput to get that to happen. So we have, and we will, you know, have a discussion about this, of course, with the community, but we need to think about different pricing models maybe. So if you're doing something with a smart contract, maybe that might cost more than just a simple transaction. Something that has uses a lot of data might cost more than something that, you know, there's different ways to think about it. Or maybe a value added transaction or something faster, like using the relay node might cost more than using the peer-to-peer. There's a lot of different, but we will make this so that it's not, you know, shocking to people for sure.
Makes sense, because like I'm a big fan of the Cosmos ecosystem with the IBC chains, and that's exactly what they do. Everything is fed via the fees, and then some like DEX fees might cost a little bit more than just sending just a crypto without any notes or anything attached to it, and it creates a revolving door economy. So I think that's definitely a great idea.
On Cosmos, okay, well, I'll check that out. Thanks.
Yeah, got to check out Cosmos, Osmosis, Injective. Those are like the 3 biggest in that ecosystem. And so, yeah, that's why I would look. Can we move over a little bit before we go on our ad break? We'll start getting into, go back to marketing and branding and things of that nature. So we got a lot of people asking when's the new CEO for the Algorand Foundation coming, and where y'all at in that process?
The new CEO?
CMO, not
oh my God. You know something?
CMO,
I don't know.
No.
You guys, you are very cutting edge on the info, but hopefully that was just a bit of a...
No. We appreciate the CEO here. We appreciate you. Wait, CMO, a big question that people wanted us to ask about.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so you know, Jess Chin, she had a lot of great qualities, and one of them was branding. Not just the idea of thinking about how we wanted to present ourselves, how we wanted to show up, everything from that to like, what is our brand North Star? This was something that I had never even heard of before. To how should we think about our color scheme? How should we think about when we represent community? You know, they're going to be represented with like different like puzzle pieces fitting together. Like that's very clever stuff, like from start to finish, very you know, but nobody's perfect, right? Let's just say that. And
well said.
one of the issues that we had though was that our number 2 in marketing also had a baby last year, so she was on maternity leave for half the year, and she is back now, and you can tell the difference in kind of the marketing since she's been back, right? Like it's just. It's more organized. It's more out there. It's more systematic. I mean, she's just really, her name is Alexa Carr, and you could definitely also have her on if you want to.
Shout out to Alexa.
Yeah, shout out to Alexa, right? And we are definitely going to hire a CMO. The thing is, I now, which I did not have last year because I had nothing last year, I have the luxury of getting the perfect CMO because I have a good head of marketing, vice president of marketing now, right? So I feel like there's not, and so we are working with a headhunter also now to do it. And so this headhunter is, I meet with this headhunter, my COO and I meet with this headhunter every week. We go through names. I've interviewed 4 people. Nobody has so far, lit everything on fire. And we have a pipeline of names coming up, and we're excited, but I also want to just give a nod to how well it's working now. And I think there is some confusion in the community, and I'm not going to mention any names, Elder, but about the difference between marketing and PR, right? So the fact that I'm not on the BBC World Report is not actually a failure of marketing. That is a PR kind of thing. And so we have also talked to a number of different PR agencies. I'm a bit cheap about stuff like that. So we're just not going to overpay for PR agencies. And that's a mistake that I made when I first came. We hired a big New York PR agency. I spent too much money. They didn't understand crypto. It was just like a failure. And so but we now also have a lot to talk about. And frankly, there's more interest in a bullish market to talk about crypto, right? So as we get that engine going, you're going to see, marketing and PR, it's going to work. And there's going to be a lot to talk about and a lot to do. And I think you're going to be pretty excited. Now, our core color scheme. This is what you get with a female CEO. I care about this stuff. Our core color scheme for our marketing look and brand. Core color. Can you guess?
Oh, wait, so are we guessing a new core color or?
Yeah, core color.
Green or yellow. You got to go one of those two.
You might have seen. Okay, you're close. Green, but not quite green.
I would guess teal.
Mine,
teal. Exactly. Teal. Teal. So great. Guess, yeah. I love that. I love saying that so much. I can't tell you. So yeah. So and then our brand North Star. Let me just say one word about that before I let you go to break. So this came, not surprisingly, from Silvio, and one of the very, very first conversations I had with him. And he said this in kind of a little bit of an offhand manner to me. But he said, look, if you're going to try to solve big problems and you can't solve them at scale, then why would you solve them at all? What's the point? If your blockchain can't handle the scale to go after the things we care about, then what are you doing in the room kind of thing? And so I just always thought about this, and we are really the only blockchain that can handle things at scale, right? And so we have been, and you can't imagine how much work can go into one sentence. But so the first iteration of this is the Algorand blockchain solves real world problems at scale. And I loved that. I thought that was great. And so, but then, people start talking about it internally. Do you want to have problem in our brand statement? Is that a good word? So now I think where we've landed, Alexa might get mad at me if we're not 100% landed on this yet, but the Algorand blockchain enables real world solutions at scale. And so when we think about how we want to think about our brand, of course, our mission statement is the same. It's the same that's been on the website. We are responsible for the ecosystem of the Algorand blockchain, of course, as a foundation, but Algorand as a whole, Planet Algorand, this protocol, we enable real world solutions at scale. And that is a unique value proposition for this blockchain that we're pretty proud about. And I think that we as a community can all get behind. And I may get in trouble for leaking that a little early, but the next block is always about having the info early. Yeah,
exactly. So. Got to get the alpha. And I'll add too, right before we go to break, when that whole juicing of the oranges happened a few weeks back, you can see the transaction spike. The whole blockchain was doing great. It was fine. And that showed some example at scale right there. So that was amazing.
Yeah, right. And we're talking about, this stuff is for the community to do, but we're talking about why not an oranges game? you do stuff, and then like, or you can grow your orange tree, and then you might grow your orange orchard, and like make it a bit fun too. So we're talking to some folks about how that might be fun to do.
You got to get a character of John Woods in there as well.
Oh my God,
All
please, please.
So if you give us a moment, everyone, get you some water, give us a moment. We're going to shout out to our sponsors that are here. Some of them are in the audience today. So let's start it off. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, everyone. Episode 90.
You know how you can tell this ecosystem's getting more mature? I mean, the quality of those ads, the production quality. Oh man, the ExaMarket. I hadn't seen that ExaMarket. The Gora I think that's a new version of the Gora, but they had a good one before. And the Messina Bridge. Oh my gosh, such great production quality.
Shout out to them NFDs, Exa, Algo Foundry, Gora. Appreciate y'all.
They definitely have helped us, continue our runway and continue to be able to produce this show for the past over 2 years now. And so, obviously wouldn't be here, without those sponsors. And we do have another sponsor that'll be joining as a we'll keep that a secret for now. Haven't inked anything yet, but we're still growing and looking to grow Algorand. So I want to kick off this next question, kind of looking at 2024, and this still kind of ties into the roadmap, obviously, that was published. But I just feel like it's a question that needs to be asked, and I feel like there's no better person to answer it than you. And maybe this is just some of my thoughts and some of the people that I've talked to in the DMs. But is this, because like I say, going back to what I said earlier, with this being a lot of changes to Algorand, is this like a it has to work or else, right, type of scenario for Algorand moving into 2024 and 2025? Like, how much of Algorand's future success rides on the things that are being implemented by the roadmap being successful, like people actually wanting to run nodes, the network staying secure with getting away from those relays and things like that, with incentivization, with the other things that are on that roadmap? Is 2024 a kind of like a do or die, time for Algorand? And the reason also why I feel like I think that is just because of the macro conditions, right, that we're kind of seeing, in the world. Like, I'm not going to get into too much of the Fed and recessions and stuff like that, but it does kind of seem like there is a clock ticking for Algorand to start making waves, right? We've had the tech, and our tech just keeps getting better, but we're not seeing that mass adoption coming in like some of these other chains maybe are getting with some more hype. So what are your thoughts on this, 2024 and into 2025 and where Algorand's poised to go?
Yeah, I think I agree with you broadly, but I wouldn't put like a timing frame on it so much as I would put if these things aren't compelling, then I don't know what would be compelling. That would be more the framework that I kind of would talk about this in. So for example, if incentivizing people to participate in consensus, if we do that for 2 quarters and the foundation is still putting most of the algos towards consensus, then this will be an epic fail, right? Like if consensus incentivization doesn't work to incentivize consensus, then that's going to be bad for us, right? So we are taking a bet that people respond to incentives, and that this will make our network secure, more secure than it is, right? And without the foundation having to play such a heavy hand in it, heavy algo hand in it. And so that's more how I think about it. But we always have our foot on the gas pedal pretty hard at the foundation. And this year, I think, like the staff is so fired up because the stuff that we're doing now in 2024 is like building future, making sure that we talk about the things that we're doing properly, getting out there, getting known. I mean, kicking off the year with the St. Moritz conference, like every OG in crypto, every big investor in crypto is at this thing. They only let 250 people in it. Our name was just all over we're the marquee sponsor of that event. And the name recognition, getting in the zeitgeist, having the Messari report out, like we have never been paid attention to by Messari ever. And now we have 2 reports out. This last one, I know you guys read it. It's like great, right? And then we think the Q1 one is going to be great. These things are going to be coming out quarterly. And what we did last year, what I did in year 1 was just like, I think, fix a lot of problems. And also, it was a bad year in crypto, right? Bad year in crypto. And then last year wasn't so great either, honestly. And the fact that we got through that MyAlgo hack, I don't think even people have an appreciation, but I don't think people have even enough of an appreciation of how terrible that was for individuals, for companies and protocols that had their treasury there, for the ecosystem, for the FUD, well-deserved FUD, for we still don't know exactly how this happened, so we spent, as a community, 6 months recovering from this, right? And I'm proud of us that we got through it in a way, right? And then just fixing things so that we can scale and set a little bit of a setback on marketing, I would say too, right? So, it is my job to make sure that we don't make any mistakes and that we just go and are ready to scale. But this is going to be such a fun year. I mean, we have some other stuff too, maybe to talk about later, which I can't say yet. And then the other thing is, this stuff, I have worked when I was in TradFi, I worked a lot with governments, and the sales cycle for the public sector is super, super long. And for big corporates, it's super, super long. And doing it the regulated way takes a super, super long time, right? So we are starting to see now the results finally of things that we started working on 2 years ago, right? Quantos is a perfect example of that. 2 to 3 years to get that regular. But now they can they can do digital euro across Europe now, right? It's amazing. And who else can say that? Nobody, right? So I'm not going to declare victory if we have a good year this year. I'm still going to worry every single day and be, have the foot on the gas pedal and just, watching our back. But yeah,
I think there's a lot to say about, kind of having your back against the wall, which, like you said, after the MyAlgo hack, it seemed like that's where Algorand has been. And obviously the outlook looks like it looks like we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We see where Algorand can go, and I do believe if Algorand can capitalize on all these roadmap steps in 2024, that it will be a great year, and we will start to see that adoption flow through. And you kind of mentioned it as well. I feel like just as much as marketing is important, I feel like sales is my background in loans and mortgage and banking. All of my history is in sales, and no business makes money without selling, right? You got to sell yourself. And this question I have kind of comes like, one, what is Algorand doing to sell themselves to clients, to businesses, to other people who are building in the ecosystem? I know we have Algorand Labs, and you guys are investing in things. I just saw the recent investment in Gora. I don't know, you can speak on that one if you want to. Yeah, shout out to Gora. But the thing that makes me think of it is I see a tweet from Franklin Templeton, right? And they tweeted out a couple weeks ago, in response to all the Bitcoin ETF news and all that stuff. But they said other layer ones outside of Bitcoin, ETH, Solana have massive potential, and we are continuing to support, monitor, and develop on these networks as they grow and mature. And my question would be, is anyone from Algorand reaching out to these giants, especially in the banking sector? I saw someone on the comments said that AVAX was making a partnership with JP Morgan. I don't know the validity and how deep that is, but your banking history makes me wonder, what are we doing? Why are these big entities not speaking about Algorand, especially if they know they can build enterprise grade, level applications on it?
Yeah. So one thing that has surprised me about this world, which I did not really fully appreciate, is how also pay to play it is, right? And there are our friends over at Polygon are kind of the archetypal example of this, right? Like they will spend a lot of money to have these announcement partnerships, right? And good for them, and we did not raise a bunch of VC money in the beginning. We didn't get a bunch of fiat. We don't have like a huge treasury like other VC funded chains are. We have more purist roots, so we do not really engage in the pay to play right now. Sometimes you want to integrate, you have to pay some integration costs, right? That are legit, right? But I'm particularly thankful for Gora coming along, right? Because like Chainlink, I mean, it's a little extortionary to get on, to try to get on their roadmap. If you want to be a part of that, right? Like, I'm not going to lie. It's a lot of money. And that's just even to get in the queue, because they can, right? And so that's the first thing I think that hobbles us a little bit. Also, just like, we're just not going to do it. I mean, we have the best tech. Like, we're not going to, the world I come from is that you pay to use us. I'm giving something away for free. Like, why do I have to pay you? It's just kind of, and then secondly, and so that is, I would say that makes it a little bit harder for us compared to some other very fiat rich chains from their early VC funding. The second thing though, is that we are, we are a little more purist about, like, we don't advertise vaporware, right? So we like to see transactions on chain before we talk about things. We don't talk about, we don't do the announcement hopium kind of announcement, right? Now, maybe we've been a bit too cautious about that, I will say as well, right? So it could have been that we could have been a bit more, but when we say, but I will say that the crypto market and ecosystem more broadly has really, and I'm sure you guys have noticed this as well, has really started to discount these announcements now. Like, you don't get the bump that you used to get just from having a press release anymore, because, people are smarter now about that stuff. So when we announce something, it's real. It's not it's not real. But to answer your question, yeah, absolutely. And in fact, JP Morgan is a good example of our head of business development and capital markets. Eric Ragg talks to them a lot. Federico Demicheli too, a lot. And these things like the ArchX, the Quantos, these partnerships, Konya, these things, the Hassab Pay, right? Like Matt Keller, head of Impact. I mean, he talks to Hassab Pay probably twice a week, right? Just, getting this stuff, helping them succeed. We're nobody, right? Like, it's not about us. It's about making these protocols and these companies succeed. And we just poached an unbelievable woman from Polkadot named Christine. She works for Min Wei, and you know, she'd be another good. She and Min would be great to have on your podcast for sure.
Mm.
And she is in charge of ecosystem success. And like our job is to make these companies successful, right? And so we're going to roll out this year a full, like a full kind of incubator, not as heavy-handed as an incubator, but a full incubator approach where we are going to offer all kinds of in-kind services to the companies building on Algorand, you know, setting you up with legal things, giving you volume discounts on things. You know, if we can buy an accounting software in bulk, why not? Why couldn't you maybe also avail yourself of that accounting software? And you could be like sub-licenses under our license. All of the stuff we are exploring this year, because that's how we're trying to run these partnerships. And when they get super, super tight with us, and we can think of them as an extension of our own, kind of sales arm. I guess that's kind of how we think about sales. And then, you know, the partnerships, like with this partnership we're doing with the UNDP, you know, we are going to be training all of the UNDP staff on blockchain. You know, we are now putting all of these presentations together, lining up the instructors. You know, I'm giving the first, you know, high level. And then we thought, okay, well, why not get our companies to give lectures on this so they get directly exposed? If you're like Whole Chain, for example, doing supply chain management, why don't you give the lecture to the UNDP so that they learn from you? And then maybe they give you a call afterwards and say, hey, you know, we want to do some supply chain stuff in Bora Bora, you know? And so like, you know, so that's how we are pretty trying to go about it more systematically. Now, I will say though, BD teams, you know, they run in the 10s and 20s of people, right? Like our BD team is, you know, not very big. And so they are small but mighty. But I've got 2 open headcounts for more BD this year, because I think this is the year, you know, in a bear market, I was reluctant to spend on headcount for that. But I think to the point of your earlier question, this is the time to invest and get it done this year. You know, get it done this year. It's our number one priority, is to get some of these high profile partnerships across the line. So
I think
go ahead.
Spend 20 minutes.
I would add, I know Staci, you got about 5 minutes. I'm gonna be quick as well. But I'll just add too, because it's great. We had Quantos on recently and like Travel X, and we see those businesses with so much growth, and then models that, you know, change their respective industries. Especially, I really like what Travel X was doing. That is that type of business. Definitely bring them to go educate people out in the community. And I remember John mentioning having whitelisted different developments and, you know, add-ons to companies is a great idea, because the big ones we're noticing is the ones that everyone in the Twitterverse is looking at, like what's large that's happening and consistent. Go ahead, I'll pass to you for change.
I was just going to say,
and I've got some more time too. I just pushed my thing back, so it's
oh, cool. Hey, there we go. Good. I was about to say, I was about to do some lightning round questions to get through some of these.
We can
let's do some lightning round questions from some of the ones in the chat as well. I saw Coop was saying he walked away for a few. Have they asked about ASAs on centralized exchanges? That is one thing that I feel like is hard for Algorand, right? I mean, really, when you look around at the assets that are created on Algorand, you have Opulus, which now is kind of moving over to Arbitrum and kind of pursuing a lot over there. But they were one that was being listed on, you know, multiple centralized exchanges, Qcoin, Mexi, Gora, I'm pretty sure is on Mexi or Qcoin, one of the two. But that is something that, how can, you know, is there a way that Algorand Foundation can actually assist, or, you know, I guess it almost kind of makes me feel like extortionary because of Chainlink. You know, a lot of these exchanges want a lot of money up front, and I know that that's probably an issue with some of it, but what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, we also, you know, we have some USDCA issues as well, right? Like we have our own, like we got to, you know, we get the algo, but we got to get the algo. We got the USDC version of the algo. We got to get our top ASAs. We know that we have to do it, and you know, so I think, you know, we need to kind of we've done these little kind of liquidity incentivization programs, and I think that helps, because when you know, you need to show, it's a little bit of a a circle that you kind of break out to the next, to spiral upwards. You got to show the liquidity, and then you can show the liquidity. People pay attention to you, and then you get on the exchange, and the exchange gives you more liquidity, right? So you got to figure out how to like break in. But it is, you can imagine how many ASAs approach these exchanges. But you are right. It is our job, and we are pursuing our job to make sure that we talk about the ASAs and getting these ASAs on the top ones on exchanges for sure. And of course, the coup is our number one priority.
Yeah, gotta get coup coin listed somewhere.
That's the one.
I mean,
everybody else can just
crazy.
wait until we get the coup coin.
Yeah, it's crazy though. But you see these meme coins and what they do. I mean, Bonk kind of took Solana by storm, and it ran all the way up, and then everyone's just bidding coins on Solana. You had obviously COQ on AVAX. That was one that took off, and Avalanche started running. So there is something to be said about exposure and getting Algorand is still a siphoned in its own kind of little area a little bit, and not able to get some of that broader exposure. I do want to grab this guy's question before it goes away. Yeah, what is the and we can also spend just a few minutes here. I know we're short on somewhat short on time, but what is the Algorand Foundation doing to improve the UI UX of the XGov forum? Also, what are they doing to make sure people are not just gaming the system for funds? I did see a tweet thread from John from NF Domains earlier today, kind of just saying hey, should we scrap the current model? Like is it actually working? Are we seeing productivity? Because it seems like there's still some proposals that are just kind of getting just wanting funds to prop up their token or to put in liquidity pools, and it's not really seeming like it's actually building innovative things and an engaging forum where people talk. It seems like it's kind of siloed itself with the XGovs, and I'll even put this in there as well. This was the first proposal or first time that we put our show's proposal in to get some funds to help scale up our website that we're wanting to launch, to scale up more marketing so that we can get the message out, obviously, to more people. And I will say the process from a non-developer standpoint was it was very confusing at times, and even after submitting, getting multiple errors and not really knowing how to fix it and having to reach out to other developers in the space. It's not been the most friendly. So what are your thoughts on XGov? Let's kind of talk about that.
Yeah. So on the UI UX, 100%. In fact, I was just in a meeting yesterday on this, and we are continuing to work on it, and every time it'll get better. And I think this next one will even be better. But you're right. It's like not a fun process, right? But we've only done this twice, right? So, we got to, in terms of abandoning it altogether, though, I will say that it'd be a somewhat controversial thing to say, but I think we have to decide as a community how decentralized we really want to be, because I think there are some members of this community that they kind of want their cake and eat it too. They want to be decentralized, but they also want to blame the foundation and look to the foundation for everything and blame the foundation every time something happens. What goes hand in hand with decentralization is responsibility and kind of ownership of these things, right? So we right now, I think, are in the process of decentralization, and part of that is us doing things to improve, and the other part of it is the community stepping up. So I'll give you an example. Kelly Callahan, I don't know if you remember her, back in Algorand Inc., she had this idea to have a website of the ecosystem participants. She put this thing together, put everything up, and it was going to be community maintained. And like nobody maintained this website. It was like this dead website. And then of course, people come like, how come this website's terrible? The foundation or Algorand, blah, 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 and it's like, because it's your website, you gotta maintain it. And that was sort of like maybe a big step too early. People just weren't. Now is a good example. The foundation's like, we need a DeFi committee. We need a governance committee. We need an NFT council. So we form these things. What it should be, though, is an NFT council should form, a DeFi council should form. They should invite the foundation to participate in it, right? Like this is what decentralization is. The standards stuff, Bruno says, the standards committees, sometimes everybody shows up and sometimes like they don't. Like you have to, and he's undeterred because we absolutely need to have this. But we we shouldn't be the driver of it, right? Now, I would love to get some, because I think it's fun, and MJ put the the poll out, and I think it's fun to have meme coins, but you guys got to understand, like, meme coins are not something that the foundation can like think up and do, right? Like we can be supportive of community initiatives, right? But that's not. And so we have got to figure out this governance voting XGovs process. We have got to figure it out together. Some of the rules initially the community didn't like, but the community devised those rules. All the ARC process was community driven, right? And so I love this, that we make mistakes together and we fix them together, but we can't abandon it. And we're going to use the XGovs, and we're going to double down, frankly, on the XGovs process. Now, we have to fix the UI, UX, and it's like clunky, and the forum and all of that stuff. We've got 2 people running that, 2 full-time people running this program, full-time job, right? One super technical, one super community, like Haley and Adri. So we'll get there, but this XGovs process, getting funding, figuring out how to filter out the knucklehead projects and make sure that the good projects get the attention and get to the top, that is a community responsibility. So it's on all of us this year to make it happen.
Hold on. Just because. Can I finish one thing? Yeah, I just want to, because like I'm interested to get your take on, I was just reading through John's, a tweet thread that, today, and I'm sorry to spend so much time on this. Maybe it's more or less, maybe focus on it too much, but his proposal, and I just want to get your initial thoughts, would be stop everything, right? And to kind of go along with some of the roadmap, XGov, NFT rewards, DeFi rewards. And he goes through and just shows that even though we've done a lot of these NFT rewards, through the past proposals, Algorand, if you look at, all NFTs ecosystems, is still bottom right on these charts, and it's just not, really moving up the ladder anymore. It doesn't seem like it's really doing much. DeFi, similar. It doesn't really seem like we're growing like we would want to see the growth in DeFi. And he says, get rid of all those things, put XGov, that algo into incentivizing nodes. And this is where the DeFi yields come from going forward, not governance. And then, you would then see people want to come in to get that APY supporting the network, and maybe that would bring the money in. What are your just initial thoughts there? And this is just also my initial thoughts. Like, if it, would that be a good solution from the community, or is that, like I said, can there still be a better thing built with XGovs?
Okay, so you are asking me as Staci. So I got to tell you, this is not like the official decided policy yet, but this is my view. And I kind of maybe split it down the middle. So I think when we start and say, let's just say we go live in Q3 with incentivization for consensus, then I don't think we should, then we need to, and I think we will, the chances that we do this are very high. We will phase out the old governance rewards completely. So you're not going to get paid for making votes anymore. You're going to get paid for keeping this network secure. That is how you're going to earn your algos. Okay, so now we have also, as part of this, in response to sort of community demand, already opened the aperture for what it takes to be a governor. So participating in DeFi, having an NFT protocol, these kinds of things. So take the money that we have now given to the DeFi marketplaces, the NFT marketplaces. Should that not go in the XGovs pot? So the XGovs can decide about that in addition to the other projects that they vote on, right? So this is not 100% determined, but I think this makes sense if you ask me. You're asking my opinion, that we have these DeFi rewards, and NFT rewards also are part of the XGovs process, and they can compete for money the way everybody else can. So I want to be very protective of the money that we set aside for incentivizing consensus. So that will be that money. We will publish what that is. I think it's in the white paper actually, and that will be set aside for that. It'll come from fees, and then after the fees will not be enough, and then we will supplement that. But I mean, my goal is to turn all of these decisions over to this community. Like when I came, I said, and the first thing I said is like, I do not want to be running this grant program anymore. You know the problems we have with that grant program, and why do I think I could? To be fair to Sean Lee and my predecessors, do I think I could do a better job running that grant program? I'm not so sure. Like, we shouldn't be running this grant program. So they fall off, and we turn that over to the community. Now, is there some growing pains with it? Of course, we can all expect that, but we got to make it better together. We got to come up with ideas to make it better, not not abandon it, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's two
And
things here. I want to add it was a follow-up from John. This was a big part of the proposal. He's asking about the retroactive funding pool opposed to XGovs. And this is something that they're doing on Optimism,
yeah, I was
essentially
about to say that.
rewarding people who already put in work and who have proven themselves rather than kind of say a pitch deck and then getting funded type of situation. If you got a comment on that.
Mhm. I don't, except that I will we will get back to you. So I don't want to say because I haven't thought
Yep,
about it at all. But
excellent.
that
Yeah.
sounds interesting.
So
This sounds
optimism. Yep.
interesting to me.
I will
Yeah.
say though, and this is
Optimism,
coming
yeah,
from
that sounds
someone who
interesting.
I've actually been investing in, not really, just I'm talking about time wise, not money. I've actually
Yeah.
been looking at using Optimism and using base chain, they call this the super chain and whatnot. And they use this retroactive funding for products and projects. But I'll say this too, they just had their round 3, I believe, go off, and there was a lot of this, kind of disruption between the community because there was a lot of off chain and a lot of people who were maybe not adding as much value to the chain, getting massive amounts of OP tokens. I mean, I'm talking
Mm,
hundreds of thousands of dollars for
Mm,
some people just doing
mm,
an in live event. And then you had some of the
mm,
mm,
main dexes like Velodrome and Aerodrome on Optimism and Base getting like pennies compared to what they got. And those are some of the
mm.
biggest ones doing on-chain activity. So I do think that
Interesting.
this retroactive funding could be the answer that Algorand could use to say, hey, you got to show up. You got to actually prove that you're adding value to the chain. But it still needs, I think the XGov could still be implemented in there and taking a deeper look and making sure, hey, let's, make sure it's a community decision on where the percentage of these funds do get, allocated.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's definitely some kind of second mover advantage to some of this as well, right? Like learn from the mistakes of others. So, we now have the luxury of looking at a bunch of this stuff. But again, we need proposals. We need this stuff. If this community decides that they want to have a retrospective approach, we'll do it that way. Like we recognize our leadership role in shaping these things, but we want to, and if it's like daft and ridiculous and crazy, of course we're going to put the kibosh on it because we have to protect this. It's
Yeah.
our sacred mission to protect for the good of us all. But yeah, like we're open to, and again, I feel like I'm always pitching foundation people, but you should have Adrian Michele on to talk about it. Like they're in the weeds on
I'm
this
writing
stuff.
notes.
Yeah, yeah, no, and we even
Yeah,
had Rich Flair. He was a community member on our show last week. I believe it was last
yeah,
week,
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
he's very
yeah. I love
active
them.
right now in the forums, whatnot. And I do think that he had a good point on that last week's show of like, if the community wants change, like stop looking at the foundation and say, hey, make the change, do this, and just start, taking initiative and getting the change done. And I get it. There's definitely
He's my
some.
hero.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Shout
definitely
out
got
to
to
Rich
be
Flair.
some movement on both sides, but I do think if the community speaks up loud enough, I think we can, as a community, we can take that initiative and get things done. And so,
Yeah.
So on this next thing, though, I know we're getting closer to the close of the show. We at the top of the hour. Can we close out with talking about Decipher in Barcelona to give some, some hype and love for the people who about to be out there? Is there any announcements, or is there a place, or what's this process of getting tickets like for the Decipher
Yeah.
in Barcelona?
So the logistics around it are coming out soon. So I won't get myself in trouble by kind of doing too much on that, but like very soon. But I will tell you the theme of this. So I mentioned earlier that the theme that we're really focusing on, like we call it the bear hug of our protocols. Like we can do so much more non-monetary helping these builders, right? And we went to if you were at our Impact Summit in India, the developer room was packed. I mean, there was standing room only at this thing, and the buildable like exceeded our wildest dreams. And so we want to make Decipher, not to say that other people can't come, but Decipher is going to be like the bear hug on the ground. It is going to be for the builders. It is going to be for the developers. It is going to be for the entrepreneurs. It is going to be for the companies. That is absolutely going to be our focus. And I have about watched enough panels for a lifetime, I will say. lots of panels.
Yeah.
My lifetime quota for panels is, I'm getting very close. So what I think we want to do is make it much more, probably a bit smaller, more hands-on workshops. So we'll have the developer track, of course, and you guys have seen that. We do that very well, and we'll continue to do that. But why not have a kind of like developer track, like on the business side, like workshops for, how to build out your, runway, how to think about your accounting, how to negotiate a term sheet, have investors there, right? Like have chief operating officers talking about like, how do you scale and how do you put process in place? Like these are, we've got very good companies that are built fundamentally because they are founded by very good technologists. And so technologists kind of don't need the developer track as much as they need the business track, like a little mini MBA in Spain, a little mini MBA. And so we're not going to like completely jettison the stuff that you're used to seeing. And we're not going to say, if you're not a builder, you can't come, but it's not going to be for you. It's going to be for this. And we'll have, keynote, maybe a few less panels, a couple of keynotes, and a lot of like workshops and rolling up your sleeves and making sure that there's enough time and space for people to make connections. Because, you make these connections. Oh, you do this or you do this. Oh, okay. Like, why don't we partner on this? Oh, who could help us? This person over here. And oh, did you know? Blah, 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 blah. Like that stuff needs time and space and cultivation. And we just want to make sure we have the room and the space to do it. So that's kind of the grand idea behind the thing, but lots of logistics and announcements coming out. I expect to see you broadcasting live.
Oh, yeah.
That's the plan.
Last time I innocently walked by before I had my cup of coffee. Will grabbed me, put me in front of a microphone.
Yeah,
and
our plan is to be there and to get a lot better quality content than even some of what we got last time. We have a lot of new plans on how to make that happen. One thing you did mention, obviously, if we're getting close to when I know you said you pushed that meeting, but
no, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
My son's still asleep, so I'm still good. So
I'm staying for the puppy.
Speaking of the buildable, right? That was something that just happened. Because here's something else. Like obviously, alt season is kind of here, so a lot of layer ones that are not ETH Bitcoin are starting to pop and have a lot of growth in their ecosystems with new builders. What new and exciting things, are you, seeing from the, foundation side, excited to come see build? Obviously, I know we talked about Gora and we do need, a Oracle system like that on Algorand, and you guys are investing in them. But what about from the buildable thing? What new projects have come up that you've seen that you're excited about?
Yeah, one thing I will say that we're doing with Buildable is we're going to do 2 this year. So we have the cycle constantly going. And so we'll have a Buildable that has the final live at Decipher, and then we'll have the second one in the fall. So we'll have this kind of like, kind of a little bit of a constant flow and try to make it. And by the way, this is one thing I want to say about the XGovs too. We're going to try to, by the way of kind of quasi UI UX improvements, is trying to like smooth out this 3-month thing so that we're not quite so regimented around epochs, 3-month epochs, and that it's a much more smooth kind of voting and process. So, we don't do that, just as an aside. But another project that I'm very excited about is, these guys didn't come out of Buildable, but I just think they're so cool. I want to talk about them. Is that so there was a New York Times article a couple of days ago, about 4 days ago, about the Dana-Farber Research Center. And, I grew up in the Boston area. This is like a very famous cancer hospital and research. And they, as it turns out, not everybody, and I think this is, I want to say allegedly, started manipulating the photographs of different like proteins and cancers, sometimes elongating the photographs and just like effing with the images in the research side, right? Which like, how can you imagine that somebody would actually do this, right? So there's a company building on Algorand. They've done about, I think like they've done 700 transactions already. There's we're going to make a very nice announcement about this. But again, the next block, you get it first, called LabTrace, right? Which is Labtrace is like putting these images, MRI images on the blockchain, they have integrated into hardware. So they're integrated into like Siemens hardware. And so you cannot mess with that image. And the implications for this are absolutely profound. So for example, if you take you give some medicine, you're doing a trial, say, on the efficacy of medicine, by gaming a little bit when you take, so say somebody has like lung cancer, right?
Yep.
And you give them medication for the lung cancer. By gaming, when you take the MRI and when you say that you take the MRI, you can game a little bit the results of the efficacy of that treatment, right? Because it might work immediately and then kind of taper off over time, and you can take the MRI immediately and then say that you took it, 3 months later, which would show real improvement. And so to have this lab trace built into Siemens, built into the MRI machine, so nobody can mess with it. Like this stuff, I think, is just absolutely revolutionary. And, I tend to talk, because this is my background, I tend to talk about payments and micropayments, and I'm always talking about Hasab Pay, and I'm always talking about tokenization and Lofty AI and everything. But like these other things are really, really going to be critical for us. And again, no, we didn't pay them. We didn't, they looked around at what is the best chain to be on, and this is how they picked. And I would say that none of the companies coming out of Buildable are like quite at that level yet, but they just need to continue to be nurtured, and we continue to, we have a nice funnel to put them through now, where we give all kinds of help, and we're gonna build the next companies of the the future in that way, I think.
Yeah.
So
That's exciting. Obviously, another, I would say, real world application. And like I say, that does still seem to be the focus of what Algorand is doing good in right now, is real world assets with things like Lofty AI, Hasab Pay, TravelX. We had them on a couple weeks ago, and what they're doing. Obviously, this Lab Trace and what it's going to be doing.
Your Quantos show was so good.
Quantos,
Your
yeah,
Quantos
that one
show
as
was
well.
great.
Yeah, I feel like we need to make sure DeFi Llama really has Algorand, where it needs to be on that real world assets tab, because I still feel like we're, in a lot of ways, Algorand is kind of, I see tons of posts of even real TPS, right? And somehow Algorand still gets left off of those, even though on average we're second or third place right now, with TPS. And so that would be cool to see as in 2024, because Algorand is fit for purpose. It is fit to have a lot of these things that are, they're doing their own research, just like Quantos said they did, just like TravelX told us they did. You guys didn't approach them. They found Algorand and built on it because it was fit for what they needed to do.
Right. The foundation helps, though, of course, right? That's part of our job, to help them understand and help them. But, remember this thing on Reddit when somebody posted about the TravelX on Reddit? They got kicked out of the crypto Reddit, and like MJ started a revolution, and everybody started, writing in and complaining about that. Like this to me was such a great example of like the community, demanding an end to nonsense and demanding that we are paid attention to and heard. We do our fair share of that. But when it comes from the community, and I think the thing I liked about that was it was kind of only quasi-organized, right? It was very organic. That reaction, that's like the best. That's the best.
I got another one. What people are asking now, this is speculation. Okay. When is Algorand working with Elon Musk and Twitter or X to do some X payments? Is that happening? Nice. Can we make that happen?
Right. I mean, our head of business development, Eric Gregg, I mean, I swear to God, he must say every day, when are we going to have messaging payments? We got to have messaging payments. And we're just like, we got to find the platform that wants to have, of course, we would do it better than the other cryptos. We got to partner with the messaging platform to do it. And that is not like super easy, right? But, we know we can get it done if we can get the partnership. But, Elon does not return my phone calls. I'm not going to lie.
I wonder if his brother is still interested in Algorand. I know his brother was a part of
Kimball.
Kimball Musk is in with Deep. I wonder. Yeah, tell him.
Gotta call Kimball. Yeah. I do remember that
Equity,
actually.
and then
He's an
call
investor.
Kimball, and Kimball would call Elon, and then
Yeah.
maybe we'll get Elon on the
Yeah.
show as well. How
Hey, I
about
will say
that?
Yeah,
this.
give
Siebel
me.
did have a really good idea last week, which was, and Norbert, I saw him in the chat, said Google to allow crypto ads from January 29th, 2024 on. Maybe this Gambit, we should spend, I don't know how much money it would cost, but get the actress from the Gambit or what, to actually play a little
The
like
Queen's
That would
kind
be
of like
Gambit,
so
the
great.
and then
Queen's
Joy
Gambit, kind of
Taylor
like
in it.
kind of like the Dos Equis thing where he was like, what's interesting these days, Bitcoin, and just have like her sitting at a chessboard or something, and just a
With
quick
Silvio.
quip of her playing a chess with Silvio, and then
Yeah.
boom, that would be amazing.
Blow
That
up
would be
after
so
that.
good. You know who I also sort of fantasized about getting is, the woman from The Big Bang Theory, and then she was one of the hosts of Jeopardy for a
Oh
while.
yeah. I forget
Yeah,
her
I
name in
thought
the
she would
show.
have
I
been.
know
That
which one
lady's
you're
Yeah, I
talking
funny.
can't
about.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Remember
thought
her
she would have
name.
been great too. They are cautious, of course, with this regulatory stuff coming down, and they
Oh,
can't
yeah,
be
for
promoting
sure.
investments and all this
Especially
stuff.
in
So
the
it's a
US.
little tricky, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I like the way you think.
Yeah, and maybe there's a little, room for speculation there. Even on that ETF note, obviously that was a big, movement for crypto forward with the Bitcoin spot ETFs getting approved, and now everyone is obviously starting to look at Ethereum next, and if that one would get to be approved. What are your thoughts on, from the, your history in the banking sector and whatnot on, is this just going to be the transcending, dominoes that are going to fall, where Ethereum and then maybe even XRP and things like Algorand could look to, open these things, or what do you, what's your take on that?
I think if BlackRock is going to do ETFs, I think there is a huge drop off between Bitcoin and Ethereum, and an even bigger drop off between Ethereum and anything else, for sure, right?
Yep.
But I think that in a way it doesn't matter so much, because it's the idea of getting mainstream adoption, right? It's the idea of getting, in the same way that we have to get Algorand on the radar screen of like the crypto ecosystem even, right? It's like we're still not in the zeitgeist, but you can tell, like you can feel it in the air now, a little more, right? So like I'm pretty excited about that. But the same job that we have at Algorand with crypto, because we were, behind and all of the stuff that we've done wrong in the past, all of that. Crypto has an even a little bit of a harder uphill climb with like the world more broadly, right?
Yeah.
And so these moves of just getting all of us, like one rising tide lifts all boats, is kind of how I think about it. So I love the Bitcoin ETF, and if the Bitcoin ETF takes off and does super well, then I love that more even than an algo ETF, right? And if we get an ETH ETF, I think that will be great too. And then people are like, after a while, they're like, why am I buying an ETF? Like, the thing, like, I know it settles automatically. Why am I not seeing anything for like 2 days? Like, why is this, they'll start, understanding the benefits, but you got to dip your toe in the water. And of course, we've got to make it a safer and more pleasant user experience. I mean, the stuff that, the partnership that we announced at the St. Moritz conference with Hedera on the decentralized key recovery, right? Like, this is also huge stuff. I mean, huge, I think, because this is the kind of thing, like, I think about, me, like, this is I'm degenny enough not to want to be on some kind of, custodies exchange, but I'm not degenny enough to like trust myself, right? Like to be, like I have a ledger, but I don't do all my stuff on my ledger. You know what I mean? Like I just, and like this idea that like I could in a way that I trust and that is decentralized, recover from my errors, I think is deeply comforting for me. And I think that's true a lot of things. And Lehman, really, we give credit to Lehman for coming up. And of course he approached John because we have a good reputation in this space for this kind of thing. But I think this could really, it's not only a good idea, but I think it could really take off because it's it's completely chain agnostic. So nobody has to change what they're doing to participate in this. And this is also very, very important. Hey. So I'm excited about that. Oh, puppies. Okay.
Yeah,
now
I said I would bring the
I'll
puppy in near the end of the show.
You gotta have the puppies.
Yeah. So here's cute little Maui.
Hi, Maui.
Yeah. She bites.
So cute.
She's very aggressive at
Oh my
that.
God,
One funny
she's so
question that we
cute.
can end on real quick.
Hmm.
Everybody, a lot of people in the community saw the picture of you and John Woods talking with Anthony Scaramucci at that event,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
everybody was questioning his body language and what was being said at that
Yeah,
moment.
he's like
Is
all
Yeah,
sitting
he was.
there.
He definitely looked like he definitely had maybe had some food, and he was just kind of vegging out there for a second. But is he still
right.
excited about Algorand? And I know it seems like we lost the four bulls of Algorand that we had at the Miami Decipher with Arrington and some of the other ones. But is
Oh, I
he
forgot
still?
about that.
Yeah, is he still excited about
Yeah.
Algo? What's his stance?
Yeah, yeah. So first with the picture, it was, his like, I don't know if he's his CEO, but the guy that kind of runs his company and it runs Salt and all of that was sitting
Hmm.
next to him over here, And so
Mhm.
he took the picture. He was at the table. And also at the table was Min and Christine, who runs Ecosystem. So there's
Ah,
like 4 or 5
Mm.
people in this table, except then I was next to Anthony and John was next to me. So he took this weird angle photo. And then he said, I just posted on Twitter. And then somebody said, oh, bad photo. And I was like, it better not have been a bad photo of me. Because I don't want a bad photo of me out there. But I was like, oh, it's a bad photo of Anthony. Fine. That's okay. That's okay. But yeah, he is really, he's an unbelievable guy. And you know what you should do also is the sessions for St. Moritz are online on YouTube. They
Hmm.
might not be yet, but soon they'll be online. And you should watch his sessions. Very good. Also, he mentions Algorand, of course, but he talks about everything, the presidential election to
Yeah.
crypto, to why he thinks that the Bitcoin ETF is important, to what he thinks crypto is going to do more broadly. He's a very inspirational guy. But it was a very good talk with him, and we brainstormed about things that we can do together, how he needs to how he should show up and talk about us, how we talked about how he has not been so vocal, recently. He's quite good. He has never disappeared, though, I will say. He always invites me to speak at the SALT conference
Hmm.
everywhere, SALT in the
Yeah.
Middle East, SALT in Asia, SALT in New York. Like, I always get on that stage, and I think, he does not give that to every layer one, right?
Yeah.
He wants to
makes
do,
sense.
he thinks we should do an update to the book. And I said, and he's like, you got to write this though. Like, you guys
Yeah.
write, I've written one book for you. Now, if you want another book, and I thought to myself,
You
that's
gotta
not a
write it.
bad deal, actually, because then I get to write the book I want, So,
Yeah.
so if we can carve out some time and make that happen, and he's very, very happy to do an update there. And he's just such he's a mensch, first of all, and he's such an ebullient and eloquent character that, I feel pretty grateful that he's like Bitcoin and Algorand,
Yeah,
and
I would say
yeah.
it's interesting that he has that show that's on, it's actual crypto, Hello Labs, where it's almost like a Shark Tank type thing for crypto. And it would be interesting to see, hey, is there any collaborations that could be done to get some more exposure on that platform with some of the, incubated projects in Algorand, to get them in front of a Shark Tank environment to, pitch their deck. I'm talking, even
Mhm.
some maybe more of the prominent ones like a Folks Finance or a Gora or Messina, and some of these new ones that are coming up. It's like, hey, getting them in front of these investors and money that's maybe outside the Algorand ecosystem. I feel like, hey, why not try to make that connection if we
Yeah.
can?
That is a very good idea. This is why I agree to come on your show whenever you want to come on, because I come
Yeah.
away with all these ideas. That is a very good idea, actually.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
I
And
know
I'm
there's
not,
one guy in the
and
community who has always told me about Hello. It was BitRock and Hello Labs, and finally I was like, "What the heck is Hello Labs?" And I went
Oh
and
yeah,
watched the
yeah,
little video. It's got like Wendy
yeah.
O and him, and I
Mhm.
think there's two other people. I don't know who they are. I think Ryan.
I
I don't know.
don't
I
know
can't
Yeah,
even
they
him.
remember the
doing
other guy's
a
name.
social
I
media
don't know.
play there.
Yeah, it's a whole social
Uh-huh.
media thing where it's kind of like Shark Tank, but for crypto and Web3 projects. So it could be, hey, let's make that connection and get some more exposure for Algorand teams that are building.
Yeah.
Totally, and I'll give you guys credit if it happens, but I
Hey,
will
there we go.
get on that right away. That's a really good idea. That's a really good idea.
Well,
But
on that note,
yeah,
we let's close out the show here. Staci, really appreciate you. Make sure you stay backstage for us a moment as we
Okay,
upload the rest of our clips. And to everybody else, thank you all for tapping in and showing up for this great Algorand show. Any last words for
and
you,
thank
David?
you. Oh, sorry.
No, you're
No,
good.
no.
Yeah, I was just
What
gonna
did
say,
you-
yeah.
I
Thanks for staying a little bit later. Obviously, we went like 30 minutes past. This is like our longest episode, but
Yeah.
there's so many
We're
questions we
not
have
even
from the
done.
community. Yeah, I know we could literally
Totally,
probably keep
totally.
going for another 30 minutes, but obviously, I know the community is appreciative for you coming on the show. And stay tuned, guys. We still have some great guests coming in the weeks ahead. Vestige just locked in for next week, and I know we're
Yep.
talking to a couple other big projects in the ecosystem. XPact, I think, is one of them that's going to be coming on in February. We do have the Sean Ford, the old CEO of Algorand, coming on with his new thing in February as well. So obviously, tons of great guests. And Silvio, guys, is going to be coming on the show in March. I think
Yes, we're
the
working on it.
100th episode
March.
is also the week of
Yep.
my birthday. So we got to make that happen.
Okay.
It's got to be the best birthday
Yeah.
gift I could get. So thanks everybody.
Yeah.
See you guys
Yes.
next
And
week.
for everyone
you
in the
guys so much.
audience, make sure you tag the next block. Some of your favorite people you want to show, and we'll try to make it happen. Until the next episode, y'all have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.